All right. So last time we were working on Vulkan stuff. So let's get back to that. Basically, we're working on trying to get the Vulkan unit tests all working successfully, which they were not. There was actually a good amount of them that were not. Not a ton, but some. And some of them required more work than others. Forgot which one we were working on the last, but I'm running the unit tests right now to kind of see where we left things. All right. And if you guys have any other questions or anything, just chime in. I will answer. Let's see. Doing some music adjustments. People were complaining about it. Keep thinking I need to get a mic and not use my webcam microphone because it's not the greatest. All right. Let's share my screen and start doing this stuff. All right. Text right size, audio adjusted. Let's see. So here where we're at with these unit tests. Some inclusion query tests, render target 2D tests, generate bitmaps. I remember that was one of the issues. This one, which is a weird one, because it looks like we have other MSAA tests that pass. Guess let's start with this one and see what the deal is here. All right, so it fails on what? Come on, thing. All right, so it's failing greater than blah, but was 0. Okay, I guess this is a line 505. This test seems interesting. I don't know how it's doing this. Is there a comparison image for this one? I think it doesn't have a comparison image. I think it's just looking at the results it has. So how are they doing this test to verify the MSA is enabled? They are creating a graphics device, just setting a texture, filling it with white, just a 1x1 texture. They're going to sprite batch. If enable is true, presentation parameters, multi-sample count is less than 0. Assert that it's less than 0, not equal to. That sounds. Okay, asserts that this is less than that. Okay, I get it. So it should be greater than 0 is what it's trying to say. That's kind of a weird way to test it, but whatever. Clears to black, draws that one white texture to, let's see, I think that's the size of the screen at the time, I think. So it's drawing something at a 45, it's drawing a box at a 45-degree angle, is what it looks like, right? I think that's the offset to this. It's offsetting the center, so it's rotating around the center. Hey, Aristotle. Then I forgot what that is. That's probably the, it's always hard to tell. Origin scale, that's the scale of it. So center of the screen is what I think it's trying to do. Center of the screen is drawing up a box at a 45 degree, a white box at a 45 degree angle. And then what is that 200? A scale. So they're scaling up the box, that position. And they read the back buffer data. And then they're looking for a certain of black pixels, which is the background, white pixels, and gray. I'm going to maybe have it dump out these results, maybe. Try and get an idea of what's happening. Let's see, one of the other tests. Let's see, how does that... Where is it getting the frame pixel data? I'm just struggling. Michael Hoffman says you should stick to some comments in there for next time. Yeah, exactly. I was thinking the same thing, that whoever wrote this really didn't explain very well what's happening. First, I want to kind of get a picture of what it's actually doing so that I can actually be sure that what I'm saying is correct. Also, just to see what the issue actually is. I should be able to, so get back buffer data. It's getting that. I think I can do something like I hate to create a texture just to save this stuff. We must already have code for doing this. This is what I want to look up real quick, is we must have code for doing this. Let's see, what was I doing? I was going through here. So prepare frame capture. What is it doing when it does that? Creates a special render target to copy to. Then, after it does that, it renders to that target. And then when it checks frames, it does this. Yeah. Maybe the easiest way. You can't hug every cat. You're right. You can't. Maybe the better way to do this. Let's just do something simple here to start with. I'm just going to create a I think I can just put any path that I want, right? Oh, I have to pass it a stream. No. Oh, I don't want to do that. I want to do one thing. And I don't care about doing this very well right now. But here. That's interesting. Interesting. Never seen. Weird. I guess I don't know why it would do it that way. I mean, it's saved for PNG that's part of a texture 2D. Why would it want the width and height? It has the width and height. I guess so you can save a subset of the image. It's kind of weird. I've never noticed that API worked that way. Whatever. All right, I'm going to run this test and debug just so I can step through and see what's happening. Bamboy420 says, I would love a tutorial sometime on design process of unit tests. It's always one of those things that I know I should do, but always put off until I don't have it, but I need it. Yeah, I mean, unit tests are one of those things. You know, when I first started in the game industry, I worked at a studio that, you know, required us to write unit tests, and they required us to start everything by making a design. And, you know, to make the design, you were using like these tools that used to be popular for a long time that, you know, kind of let you design in a, forgot the terminology for it, but it was a design tool for designing, you know, code where you design classes. It's a, gosh, I can't remember the name of it at all, but it was basically it's almost like a flowchart kind of language of like designing classes and how they work and their members and everything else. And everything required, first you make a design and we'll talk about the design, review the design. And then after we have the design, then we're going to write code to the design, and we write code. Then we're going to write unit tests for that design. And then we're going to have code and unit tests for that design and link, and then verify that it all works. And if we have to modify the design, then we have to go back and change the design thing. Yes, UML. Thank you, Michael Hoffman. Yes, UML was the design language. So yeah, we had to do everything in UML first, and then write code, and then write unit tests against that UML design to verify that everything worked. And that, I think, was nice and all. It was a nice experience to do that. But, you know, I just don't feel like that's the way to write code. Not if you're trying to be productive and get things done. Yes, at the time, the people that worked there, some of them came from more professional engineering backgrounds. Some of them literally came from NASA. So they kind of had this formalized process. But I think for games, that's not necessarily the best approach to things. For what we're doing in MonoGame, you know, we're not going through UML design. We really, you know, that I think is dead. I don't think I've not talked to anybody that's done UML design in a very, very long time. You know, for me, it's always been about, you know, writing code first. And then, yes, unit tests are important in specific cases. Like in MonoGame's case, we have to target lots of platforms and make sure that things behave correctly. So unit tests are very, very critical. You know, and if you had a game, let's say, that has procedural generation, you know, you might want to have some unit tests to verify that your procedural generation is working correctly on every platform, so you get consistent results across different platforms. But generally in games, you don't write unit tests like that. You know, you can, you know, some bigger studios might do it at times for certain things, but it's really just to make sure that your results here are the same across every platform that you target. But yeah, I've not been a test-driven development kind of person. You know, Arstrel says, sounds like a test-driven development, which is great for hardening implementation, but absolutely terrible for quick iterations. Yeah, it isn't for quick iterations. And I think for indies and small studios and small developers, like, test-driven development, I don't think is the right approach. I think that you should consider unit tests, in particular in places that really matter to your game. Things like if you have a lot of procedural generation, I think it's useful to have some unit tests, especially when you get to other platforms where, you know, with procedural generation, a lot of times you're banging together floating point values and using some math, and sometimes those things don't produce the exact same results across two different machines of different CPU types or two different pieces of hardware. So for that stuff, for sure, you would need unit tests to verify that what you're doing is correct. And it's very helpful, especially from somebody that supported games that use procedural generation, to verify that gets the same results. I mean, we've even seen some random number generators not generate the same results across different platforms, you know, causing like some really weird results in certain games. So those kinds of things are the things you need unit tests for. In general, you don't need them, but in MonoGame, we need it just to verify that our native APIs or just our low-level APIs are working the same way across every platform. See, Bamboy 420 says you're creating a game engine. Unit tests more useful. No, maybe if you're creating a game engine, yeah, especially if you're trying to make sure that things work the same across every platform. But, really, you shouldn't be thinking about creating a game engine if you're creating a game. You should be thinking about creating a game first, the engine is secondary. Creating a game engine is kind of you can see there's lots of different engines out there. The question is how many games have actually been created with it. Unreal Engine and Unity are probably the most successful game engines out there, as far as that's concerned. But there are other engines out there that they shipped and they maybe made 1 or 2 games out of it, and that was it. So any time spent making an engine really should be about, the game you're servicing more than anything else. So back to the code. Automating testing is often the key to avoid regressions and huge code bases, but cost to keep them updated with the evolution of code. Yes, absolutely. That's definitely hard to maintain. It's work that, at the time doesn't feel like it's useful to work. But it just depends on, the base that you're building. If it's something that you're going to be using for years and years and years, it might be worth it. But a lot of times with these games, you don't know if that's going to be true. You might have I've worked at studios where we've spent so much time building unit tests and writing robust systems, everything else, but the game either never shipped or shipped and did poorly, and everything fell apart, and the studio's dead, and the code base is useless, and all that time was basically wasted. So focus on the important things. Focus on your game and shipping that and making that fun. If that is successful and the game does wildly well, then you can worry about now how do we harden these systems because you're building a 2.0, not start with a game engine first. All right. If a game engine has no games made with it, then it's just a bunch of Git commits. Yeah, basically, what comes first, the engine or the game? All right, so back to this. Let's see. So we're going to test this dumping of texture. So this file should now exist in theory. It says, because it hasn't released the file. Maybe, we'll see. My fault for not calling end on that. Okay, so put it there. It looks like it is dead. Well, that'd do it right there. That's probably why the unit test is failing. Possibly. I don't know if I trust my my code dump first. Let's verify this. I'm going to do that. And the reason that didn't save originally is because I did this, being lazy. If I do this, it will dump as soon as it gets there. I'm just going to run it. All right, so if now we get a green, yep, so it's green. So it means that it did capture the screen. It's just not rendering the object. So that would be why things are failing. Question is, why is that? Let's see. Let's go look at one of the sprite unit tests. Sounds like my music stopped, huh? Let's get back to this. Draw sprite, draw rotate. Let's do that. I mean, these tests work successfully. Let's look at this actually. What if let's see what happens if we make it false. Come on, thing. Did that work? Interesting. So false even does not generate what it's supposed to generate. I wonder what that's about. Let's see. Sure, that sounds great. I don't know what color bisque is. I guess it's a reddish color. Oh, that's a bisque. Okay. So it is updating. Why does this draw not draw something? That is interesting. What's that null? Source rectangle null. Color white rotation. It's radians. Hate it when tests don't tell you what the units are. Let's see. Those look like your radians are being passed through. Yeah. Everything looks the same or correct. I mean, what I worry about is this a issue where it what I worry about is this an issue where it's like a timing issue with the GPU, and it's getting the color draw, but it's not getting the other thing, or it just like the timing of it missed the draw because it's not finished executing the draw when I call this, because technically it's in the middle of a frame. But I guess get back buffer draw should, or get back buffer should force the flushing of the back buffer. It should present. I don't trust that it's presenting, but I mean, I think we use this everywhere for all the unit tests. No, actually we don't. What's the right way to flush this, I guess, to make sure that it flushes the draw before it does get back buffer data? Maybe I need to handle this at the native level. Let's go look. I mean, you would think that this would force a flushing of the buffer and force everything to be prepared for drawing. It looks like we don't use this anywhere. I mean, it's only in use in one place in this unit test. That doesn't seem right, though. I thought I copied that from somewhere. Did I not? No, that was always in this test. There's the implementation. Okay, it calls end render pass, so it does do that. Looks like it is flushing. Interesting. All right, let's see. What else could I do here to do a couple of other random things here to test? this thing open because I think it'll update on me. Oh. Okay, updated. Tan seems like a great color. Okay, there we go. So there is something weird happening. Moved it to 0. It's white, with a tan background. So something weird is happening here. I'm not sure exactly what yet. So Michael Hoffman asked a question. Let's put that on screen so we can talk about it in detail here. So Michael Hoffman asks, can you talk about why there's C++ code mixed into MonoGame platform implementation? Is it easier to interact with C++ libraries than to wrap them with interop for C#? More efficient somehow? Yeah, so the reason is because when MonoGame started, we definitely focused a lot on being, let me keep this thing on screen. When MonoGame started, we definitely focused on how to access OpenGL originally. Like when it first started, it was basically an OpenGL implementation. The goal was to get XNA titles working on Mac and then eventually iOS, because it was originally called XNA Touch. Trying to focus on getting iOS versions of XNA titles working. So it kind of targeted OpenGL and it targeted C#. And well, how do we get OpenGL on from C#? At the time, they used a library called, what was it called? Frack. So long ago. We used a C# wrapper for OpenGL at the time. And it brought along, it wasn't just a wrapper for OpenGL, it brought along a ton of other code for everything. It kind of was an SDL kind of thing, written at the C# level, that provided everything along with OpenGL. So that's where it started. Then when I started working on MonoGame we were targeting a XNA title. We were trying to move it to Windows 8 when it was shipping. And to target Windows 8, you needed DirectX 11 to ship to their store. So we offered a DirectX 11 implementation for MonoGame. And what we used at the time was there was this wrapper called SharpDX that, wrapped DirectX 11 access for C#. So that's what we use, and that's why we have SharpDX in MonoGame now, and it's used for accessing DirectX code. So we kind of went down this approach for a long time, where we would find a C# wrapper that would wrap the thing, or in the worst case, have to wrap it ourselves if we had no choice to do that. And the problem that we had was that we were always kind of limited in that we can't use this library because it doesn't have a wrapper for C#. We want to build one. Well, this one has one. Let's build, so we'll use this one instead. And then a lot of times those wrappers vary in quality as far as how difficult they are to use. Are they performant for what our needs are? There was a lot of work around trying to figure out, well, what wrapper do we use? So that's how we've been operating for a very long time. In the last couple of years, especially since I've targeted console, we've been needing to, on console, there aren't wrappers that already exist for these console APIs. We have to build our own. There's no choice. So a lot of times we were building our own on consoles. First with PS4, and then eventually with Switch and Vita and PlayStation and Xbox. We had to write our own wrappers. So that process kind of, got us into the idea of writing our own wrappers. And at a certain point, it was like, well, we have all these wrappers for each platform that are different. So why do we have so many wrappers, right? It's like we don't need, a dozen different wrappers to wrap different APIs and then hook them into MonoGame. Instead, let's flip it here. Let's write one API, one binding layer, let's say, and then under that binding layer, down to native code. In native code, we can implement whatever low-level API we want, whatever C or C# C++ API we want underneath that wrapper. And then there's only one view to MonoGame. So instead of MonoGame being like a C# library that has a bunch of C# code that talks a bunch of C# wrappers that then talk to native code. Instead, it's just one API, one C# wrapper that talks how MonoGame wants to talk. So it's very much, it's like it's almost one-to-one. Like you can see like the get back buffer data here. Underneath here, there's get back buffer data, and then there is under get buffer, there's this platform get back buffer data, which on the native implementation ends up calling a native call to do this. OpenTK was originally the OpenGL library that we used for a very long time in MonoGame. So instead of writing, trying to grab a bunch of wrappers and then deal with those, which every time you grabbed a wrapper, you would also end up, you'd have a C# wrapper, so you'd have a C# DLL, and then some native DLL that would go with it, usually, depending on what the library was. So every time we'd have to have some third-party library, we'd have to carry along 2 different DLLs along with it. So you'd ship, and there'd be a ton of these little DLLs in your package, along with it, and it's just a lot of just junk, a lot of wrappers and extra stuff there that it just felt inelegant. So now how things are written, it's much simpler. You end up with your C# code. There's a C# MonoGame library, and then there's a native MonoGame library that implements, any of the native APIs that we need, and that's it. So we went from having a bunch of little DLLs into having basically 2 whenever you're shipping things, and that makes things a lot cleaner. And it gives us a lot more control. Like if we had to target a new platform tomorrow, every new platform that you have, for the most part, immediately has a C or C++ API written for it. It's not going to be in Rust. It's not going to be in D or anything weird like that. It's always going to be a C or C++ API that they provide for anything new. That's just true forever at this point. I don't think it's ever changing. So since we have a native API that talks to a C++ code, underneath that hood, we can put anything that we need. And that's going to be very useful moving forward, because we want to do things like we were talking the other day about, well, we want to enhance our font system. How do we want to enhance our fonts? Well, we want to be able to generate fonts at runtime so that you can deal with things like Asian languages that have, millions of different glyphs that can potentially be generated. So generating them ahead of time is hard, especially when it let people type in text themselves. You have to generate glyphs that you don't know about at runtime or at build time. So we want a runtime runtime generation of glyph data, but we also want offline generation as an option as well for cases where that's more efficient in your case. So how do we do both? We don't want to have some weird binding that we have to have in both places and add this extra thing. But if it's all written in native code as far as the generation of the font date glyph data, and that shared code can be shared between the pipeline and the runtime, then it's just a little bit more native code, and it can go in our native library that we have for the pipeline and in our native library for the runtime, and it's the same code shared in both places. So this approach, I think, is going to be better for us overall in the long term. It makes sure that we're never at who's written a binding for this API thing? We don't have to ship a bunch of extra DLLs or just wrappers with things. That makes your deployment cleaner, less dependencies that could fail. I think overall it's going to be a better approach than what we've done in the past. And it's mostly just to simplify things more than anything else and kind of control it. And it's really how we've been writing stuff for console for a long time at this point. So this way we're going to have one unified API to native code that then has all the implementation details that MonoGame actually needs. And yeah, that's kind of the approach we've taken. Hopefully that answers your question. Hi, Tactical Boss. Let's go back to code. All right. So we were talking about this unit test and what we figured out, which was that the discovery that's bad. Something weird is happening. So what is happening that's weird here? And I don't know yet. I'm not sure what it's doing. Mari, hi MonoGame, hello. Let's see. Let's change this to something more reasonable. Old cornflower blue. Let's scale this down a little bit. Let's see if we can figure out what's happening here. Run that unit test again. What's good? Unit tests. That's what's good. That's really interesting. What is happening here? I have it render at 0, but then it happens again over here. Why is that happening? When I switch it to size 20, it rendered it thinner there. Let me not rotate it. Let's see what happens when I don't rotate it. Huh. Not rotating, it generates the same thing. That's interesting. Can't be true, right? Yeah, weird. I think you can do that. It's doing something really weird. I don't understand what's happening here. What could be going wrong here? If I go back to that sprite batch test, come on. Let's go. How's it generating its texture for this? Let's steal this real quick. I'm going to steal this texture real quick here and use this instead. See what happens when we do that. Nope, not you draw rotated. Here. Interesting. There's a weird faded thing there. That's interesting. The cornflower blue is not cornflower blue. That's odd. Huh. Okay, there's cornflower blue. That's interesting. What does MonoGame icon look like? Go look real quick. Oh, great. It's in an XNB, so I can't tell what it's supposed to look like, but I can go look at that unit test, actually, I think. Where does it put it? Tests. Is it? Yeah, it's desktop DK. Yeah. I got confused there for a second because I saw Windows VK. I was like, wait, what? I don't think that should exist. I think that's some old crap. So captured frames, sprite batch. Where is it? Rotated. There we go. Okay, so that's what it's supposed to look like. That's why it was that weird color. It's like it's zoomed like super. It's like it's zoomed like crazy. I have not tested the original. I should probably do that. It's not a bad idea. I just have to fire up the other unit test and try it. I think that scale of 20 is what's screwing it, because the unit test for the other one, other unit test was not. I think it didn't scale it in any weird way. Was it? Yeah, I was scaling it by 1, and this one's scaling by 20, so that's why it was weird. Let's see, running this. Okay, so that still, like, what is up to that? Is it because it doesn't have a... That's such a weird result. It's supposed to render here. It's got a weird vertical scale. Yeah, let's go run one of the other unit tests and see what happens. I'm going to go to the MonoGame repo here. And I'm going to run the regular, where is it? Tests. I'm just going to run the, oh great, you're not in the solution. I'm just going to open this. The unit test isn't in there, I'll just add them. Come on thing. Test Explorer, there we go. Okay, they are in there. All right, so I'm going to go to framework graphics. A sec, should appear in here. What tests are we looking for here? Graphics Manager fixture tests. Run that test. Should replace this image. Aha. So it renders properly. So this is what I should be getting, which makes sense, but I'm not at all. I'm going to move this thing back out to where it was before. What was it? Sorry, guys. Can I turn up the music slightly? I don't know about that. People have complained about the music. Sorry. Don't want to upset the people that complain about the music. Okay, so that's more what I expect. I'm going to get this a little closer to where I think it should be, and then I will start figuring out, well, why isn't this rendering properly under Vulkan? Interesting. Oh, because I ran the test that breaks. Run this test, which is what I expected. Oh no, this is So I think it's based on the size of the image. Yeah, because I think that icon is... Anyways, that doesn't matter. That's unimportant. Important part is that this is not working at all on Vulkan, which I don't think has anything to do with MSAA, because if it did, so that's what it should look like. Instead, when I run it here, I get that. But what's interesting is the rotational unit tests do work. So that unit test works. The other one does not. I wonder if it has any... I just wonder if that get texture, like it's not completing the frame right. Like it's all in the get texture data from the back buffer that's causing the problem. That's what my initial feeling is for this, is that that's really where the problem lies. Even though it rendering all weird seems concerning. I want to see if there's anything different in how this thing is initialized or something. Nothing really special about this. Here's something to try, I guess. No, I don't know. I'm not sure about that. I was thinking, like, can I call get back buffer data on one of the other tests, but the test runs differently. It renders an off-screen buffer. Because this could totally be something about not getting the rendered geometry properly. Yeah, I might just have to try that and see what happens. This is all derived from, let's see, graphic sys fixture base. Yeah, these are not set up to do that. I could do it manually, I guess. Create an off-screen render target, set that, render there, then dump that. Because how is it even doing that? Let's see, how does it work for that? Oh, sorry. I want to lose my resolution here. Go back to here. It goes check frames. Submit frame. Release the render target. Set render. Yeah, so that's all it's doing is saying, hey, get data on the render target after it was rendered to. So yeah, I could just do this. Let's try this real quick and see what happens. Back to my test. So instead of doing this, we're going to call set render target null. Then we're going to do that should get that data. That's interesting. Is there anything else it was doing after this? Run this one real quick, see what it does there. Interesting. So it did as expected. This one does not. There's definitely something weird going on here. It could be that this is not considering that it used to be a render target. But, you know, this is exactly how it works on the other one. So why? Sorry, guys. It's that time of year, at least for me. So here it goes check frame, because this works. Submit frames. Render target null. Then it calls toPixelData, which is what is that about? What is that about? That's kind of weird. Why does it set it null and send it back? That's all it's doing. Nothing fancy. Yeah, I could, but I guess that is sort of a difference. I mean, it is. How's it doing it? Using our low-level API stuff. Actually, this is its own SCB writer implementation. This is the C# level that it's using. Huh. Yeah, let's try it, I guess. So we skip this get data, new target. Nope, same result. Running the, yes, the weather has gotten me. So this one still continues to work. This one does not. It tells me that we're not. What bothers me is that I know this works because Puerto Rico show C9X. God, these names. Hi, can you AAA 3D games with mono? Face blue smiling. Can you do AAA games with mono that are 3D? Yeah, you can. If you have the right team, the right talents, you could definitely do that. I mean, if you go look on the MonoGame Showcase page, we'll go look at it together. Through the Showcase page, you'll see a bunch of different titles, and if we go here and go 3D, it should show you different 3D games that have shipped using MonoGame. You know, this is the title we worked on for mobile. This is the one that we used to build the Sharp DX backend back in the day for MonoGame. Infinite Flight, which is a popular flight sim game on iOS. You know, Sharpshooter is one I just recently noticed that somebody had built. Looks really, really cool. Tamashika is a title that's coming out soon on MonoGame, you know, in 3D. That's like really wild. It's worth checking out. Blockscape, which is incredible looking. You know, 3D procedural block game. I haven't played this game, but it's 3D as well. We did this for a museum project. It's all based off of MonoGame as well. It's like a first-person 3D rover thing and a bunch of different 3D mini games in that. Palm Ride looks really cool. This is another one that I recently found out about. Stunt Rider Boost. It's a super cool 3D game. Let's take a look at it real quick here. Like, that's all MonoGame. You know, that's pretty elaborate 3D game. You know, obviously a talented developer, spent some time, you know, got things working for himself. But this is awesome. You know, most people would say, oh, this is a Unity title. It's not, it's a MonoGame title. What we're trying to do is make this more achievable for developers by improving our 3D support, you know, make it easier. This is a game that we used to promote a lot, you know, this old time hockey game, which was really cool looking. You know, it's kind of hard to ship a sports game and at the time and compete with the EAs of the world, but this is another MonoGame title. So yeah, I think there have been lots of different MonoGame titles that are popular. Sweet Transit's one that I just recently found out about, this MonoGame 3D. I mean, it's 3D, but you know, it's kind of like this weird 2.5D, so it's kind of hard to say. It might be 3D elements, it might not be, who knows. Something to ask the developer, but that's a really cool MonoGame title. So I think it's only limited by your talent, you know, more than anything else, and your you know, your perseverance of making it happen. These guys were able to do it. You can do it as well. You know, we're looking to make things easier for people. You know, this is where the 3D platformer starter kit and other starter kits that we're working on is going to help, is be able to build things like this in MonoGame much easier. All right, later, John Smith. So yeah, you can definitely build AAA 3D games in MonoGame. You just have to do it. All right, so back to this. So why is this failing? Doesn't make sense. Clears its render target to null, copies the render target, gets the render target data. even though it doesn't really need to anymore. Just removing steps here. Oh, I need to do this at least so that it doesn't complain. Shit, I lost my texture. There we go. So still rendering transparent. Interesting. This is definitely something with the capture. It's like it's not reading the data properly at this point. I think that setting the render target null is maybe not actually... I don't think we delay the render target binding stuff on this. I think when we set it null, it sets it null immediately. It calls apply render targets. Calls resolve on the render targets. Wonder if this is not implemented, maybe. I mean, that clears the new target for this XNA4. Like it'll clear it. In the back buffer case, it'll clear it at that point with a discard color, but that's a purple color. It shouldn't be a clear. I don't think it has anything to do with that. So let's go take a look at the native implementation here. Pretty sure this is being called. Let's debug this. So this is being called set up. So resolve is happening on the back buffer at first when it calls that. It should be happening there as well. So yeah. No, but it doesn't do anything because the MIP levels are not greater than 1. It's kind of inefficient. It's doing a resolve that doesn't have to actually do. And this is resolving the MIP map layers. This is what it's trying to do. Well, let's try something real quick here, just as a test. Say true on MIP maps. Let's see what happens. Same result. Transparency. Interesting. What is failing here? Okay, I'm going to try this again. Damn it. That's not what I wanted. Do it again. Come on. Huh. Interesting. So device says frames 1, The texture says it's frame 0. It's not calling this. I bet you it'll work this time. Look at that. Did something better. It's at least getting the data. So why does it think the frame advanced is the question. All right, so we're getting somewhere here. I think I have an idea. I think when set render target is being done, it's not setting the frame, possibly. So we're stepping into the target, apply render targets, resolve, blah, blah, blah. Trying to understand what this is doing here. Slices. Don't fully understand the array slices thing, but I think we need to be doing this. Huh. Okay, that's interesting. Okay, interesting. Confused by all that, but whatever. My guess is this could be null, but I need to double check that. Let's double check all this stuff. All right. So I think that's what's going on. I'm not totally sure. We're going to find out because I'd rather just test it and see. Okay, well, that didn't work at all. Why did it? Fanboy420 says, how bad do you think it is that I'm using reflection in order to find the static try parse method on an unknown type? I mean, you could do it. It depends, right? Like, if you're going to call it, if it's a one-time thing, just do it. It's fine. If it's something that happens repeatedly, I would at least cache the method once you get it. You can store it into a delegate, and then the call is the same as making. It's a little bit more expensive than a regular call, but it's a lot more. It's a lot cheaper, so it's definitely something you could do. I mean, I've done that in cases where I need to get to something that I don't have access to. Yeah, some renal. Yeah, it's better. At least now I'm getting the cornflower blue part. Why it's not rendering, I'm not sure, but at least it's ending the frame. So progress. Just to be sure. Yep. Okay, so that's working. It's getting that far. Still don't know why this is not rendering properly, but at least I'm getting the result I expected here. Huh. Let's double check that other unit test again. There's something I'm missing in the test. Nothing. Yeah, reflection calls are the slowest calls. Yeah, at this point, the only thing I can think of is that the frame being, we're not handling the frame being reset properly, the frame being finished properly. Okay, come on. So in render pass, in command buffer, creates a fence. Then it gets the data. Spammers. Blocked. Feels like we're getting closer here. I think last time I had a better. Interesting. If I do that, I get this result, which looks like a transform problem. It looks like a bad graphics, you know, it looks like a bad shader or something. It's weird. That, if I go back to the other unit test, run this one, which is the DirectX one, I should get green with the blue thing up in the corner. Oh, there it is. And it's rotated. I think the rotate is just not right somehow. Let's turn off the rotation. Run it again. So that's what it should look like now. We come back over here and run it here. What do I get? Get that. So I think that the transform is somehow broken, which doesn't make any sense for what this is. Trying to eliminate any possible reasons here. So what bothers me is that this definitely works. That's interesting. Interesting. So yeah, I'm not sure why this is going like this. This is strange. I mean, that's definitely setting render state. that again, just in case. But it can't be anything to do with that. Yeah, I mean, something about how this thing is initialized or something, because the other test does not generate that. It generates something reasonable. Origin got moved, yes. So that's what I should be getting. Instead, I'm getting this. Doesn't make sense. It streaks, which suggests a weird, like it should be setting the default everything here. So weird. Yeah, I mean, it's strange. I'm not sure what's happening here. There's got to be a simple logical explanation for it. If I move it, it's off completely. It must be in how this thing is set up. Because like this doesn't have the normal setup and teardown here. It has its own setup and teardown. Huh. I could try that, but I don't think so. I mean, I don't think that this is going to do anything different. It's going to do something. See, you know, it's doing something, but nowhere near what it should be doing. And my feeling is there's something got to be going on with the setup and teardown here. So where is it set up and tear down? Is that how those others are set? Turn target clears the color. What is our setup on this? Let me test this just in case. I think that should always be. I'm surprised that that's an option that you can do per. Okay. That would have been really bad if that's all it took to turn it back on. Interesting. Device. Does it not have any setup? I didn't think I was part of. I thought I wasn't. Am I wrong? Okay, yeah. I guess I scrolled up here and saw this. Said, oh, well, it doesn't derive from that, but it's actually this other test. There's two different tests in here. Fantastic. Missed that part of it. So it's already doing all this stuff. So this doesn't need to be done. It's done in the test fixture. This doesn't need to be done. It's already done. I doubt that's even being called. It could. Is this the thing that's screwing us, maybe? Let's take a look at that. Now it looks the same result. I was hoping to see that this thing was the thing that was screwing us. I feel like we're getting closer here. This shouldn't matter, but kind of grasping at straws here. Nothing. Keep going back to this unit test because this unit test works every time. Same result. Same result. And both of these, both this one and the other one, use the same base text fixture, I think. So there's that setup there. And then if I go to the other test, to that test, also uses the same setup code. I mean, it has its extra setup code here. It creates sprite batch ahead of time before that, but that shouldn't matter. Now I'm really grasping at straws here. Same result. Everything is the same result. Let's start debugging into this a little bit further. what bothers me is that the exact same test over here does work. Oh, it's so much freaking stuff. Do something dumb. One thing. You know, just to, I mean, that shouldn't matter. Yeah, as expected, that doesn't matter. There's just got to be something bad with the whole transform, I guess. I mean, it doesn't make any sense otherwise. I just don't see where this could be possibly going wrong. Just going to step through this in detail just to see if I can figure out what possibly is different here. Creates a render target 2D, sets that render target, calls clear on it. Check frames, frame submitted, sets render target to null, calls this, which gets data. curious as to why setting this render target a second time could possibly matter. Comparing these folders real quick to see if there's anything that there'll be differences, but yeah. I always do that wrong. There are differences as expected, but they're like these minor differences that are in here. It's off by like a little bit of a pixel color, which is common. You can see on one side it's 164, 167, 162. The other side is 164, 167, 161. So it's just a slight color difference. Again, how rasterizers work. Why does on the same machine DirectX and GL and Vulkan generate different pixels? Just how the renderers work at the low level, or the graphics APIs work at the low level. Slight differences, same hardware. Anyways, these are expected differences. So, but it's rendering properly. Why does that unit test render properly and ours does not? Does not make sense. Using Sprite Batch. I guess I could overload. Yeah, I mean, might as well try. God, just don't have a good answer for this other than dumb stuff. Stuff like this should not matter. Off by one. There we go. Same result. It's got to be something stupid and simple that we're forgetting here. want to set something different to see if we have. Yeah, same thing. So it's rotating in the wrong dimension. Losing patience here. I mean, I fixed one issue, but still, I'm just going to step through this thing and see if I can spot something that makes some sort of sense. It's going to fail because... Wait, why did it fail? Yeah, it's going to fail because it's going to fail to check. And what I wanted to see was that the rotation worked the way we expected it to. Artifacts, tests, stop VK, desk assets, capture frames. Okay, so draw rotated 0 failed because, yeah, I mean, we expected that, but that's what it's supposed to do. It's the one that I just outputted. Huh. I mean, but it's supposed to be rendered with, I see what you're saying, like, we'll pass a different effect, but it should be working with the effect that the stock effect. The stock effect not working is weird because it works here. This test works. So why does this test work and the other one does not? I should be getting the exact same results here. I'm not. Even worse. It's weird. It's like the MSAA breaks transform somehow. Yeah, but it's not MSAA because there's nothing. There's no MSAA. Like it's only executing this one test. This test isn't being executed, or it's only doing this, but I've disabled MSAA. Like it isn't doing anything here. And the setup does not do anything extra. It's not executing any of the other tests. I just Disable all this other stuff down here for right now. Let me get another texture that I can actually test with. That'll work actually. Nothing. Nothing, nothing, nothing. Back to this weird streak shit. Just gonna walk through Sprite Batch, see if I can spot anything. I'm just running out of ideas of what could be going wrong here. Blend, sample shape linear clamp, tip stencil state none, raster state color clockwise, effect is none. So I see what you're writing there with Square Bananas. Not sure if you read my previous message, but add it to the text feature by submit frame code and run a working visual test. Yeah, I mean, I feel like I've kind of done that already. Like, there shouldn't be a reason for this to fail at this point. I mean, I could understand if I had some partial visual data. It's like the buffer is corrupted. It's like the data isn't ready at the time that it's trying to capture, or it is bad somehow. I don't know, let me debug this a little further. Rotation 0 takes a different path than everything else. Yeah, I guess it could be in the save SPNG code. I mean, looking at the implementation over here, Yeah, I don't see anything here in particular that is different. I guess there could be I mean, it's interesting that this starts here, goes there, and does this. Like, there could be there could be an issue with the capture itself, maybe. I mean, it's possible. Only place this is being called. Yeah, let's step into that and see. It's a valid thing to think about. I'll go back to that other image here. No, let's go back to this. What was the image I was using before? Fuck, I lost it. Oh. Where'd my window go here? Oh, it's good. It's still running. So we're using this. Let's stick with that because I don't know, I'm used to it. Yeah, you might be right that it's a save render data issue, not anything else. Where's that thing? There he goes. We'll render this again. Okay, I'm getting over time here, but I'm going to check this one last thing here. All right, so we're back to this being bad. So we're going to step into detail here. There we go. Yep, that makes sense. Just double checking things. Okay, that's why. That makes sense so far. Height. Aspect mask. No, right, I get it. You know, the other one needs this to be sharp to right. I'm just looking at nothing there looked wrong, but so let's take a peek at this color data real quick. I expect it's going to go to black, and then the first pixel that's going to be not black is 801, right? Okay, I'm going to have to go back a lot. Okay, so pixel 800, which makes sense, right? It goes from 0 to 799. Pixel 800 then has color again. That means pixel 1600 will have color again. Things are aligned properly. Okay, yeah. So that data looks aligned that way. With height or component data stride bytes. Nope. Did I not do that right? Oh yeah, that's not right because it should be it's got to be in here. Aha, I think I might see the problem already. Zip plus size. Wait. It's got to be here. Relock that, adding that size, which should copy the original data over, which doesn't have to do. So it takes the current offset, writes that data plus that size, writes data of that size. It's got to be here. Data plus offset. Writes that much data. Let me. Wait, it's already done. Yeah, it's got this extra chunk of data at the end of it. That doesn't seem right. If it just relocked it to this size based upon how much it wrote, the offset is how much it wrote, then this is the actual size of the data, not the other. Ignore that for now. It's writing more data at the end of the PNG. I don't know what the side effects that it would have to writing the PNG. I think that's the right thing to write. This is the actual size. So that really is not an offset, it's the end. Okay, let's see. I'm hungry for an actual result that works here. I lost my image. Same result. I mean, I wouldn't know why this would cause this, but yeah, I think the issue is more to do with, I think that's the issue is the native writing. I'm kind of over my stream hours, but I'm going to keep going anyways because I want to solve this. So let's push a little further here. It's in this code. It gets past this function to do the writing with height. Gets passed in the data and how much to write. Because you know what it looks like is it looks like it's writing the same data over and over again. Starts here, then it slowly is off by 1. It's got to be in this function here. So it's like if the data is bigger than how big the data buffer is, change that to position. It's not really an offset, it's a position. Change that. Well, I don't need to go crazy here. Allocates initial size, which just to have some size on it. Change up the data size, set data bytes. gets in here, guaranteed. That's an interesting thought. Square Banana says, wait, try 4 times width for the last argument of SBA right PNG function. You might be right. Stride bytes. Stride meaning the width of the structure or the width of the thing. Yep, that's where the issue lies. Still, this is all good changes. Let me make some of these changes here. I mean, there were rendering issues, but the issues were really here. So, yeah, it is stride. Might be also on this one. We'll have to see in a second, but it is width times 4. The stride of the stride meaning like to get to the next line. That's the thing it was doing. That's why it was off by 4. That's the whole issue. You captured it there, Square. That's the issue. Thank you. So we're going to have something that renders now. Come on, thing. Did it actually execute the right code? What is it complaining about? This is the stupid thing where it doesn't. Look at that. Look at that. Now it makes sense. It was rendering this first row over and over again, and it was rendering it wrong. So progress. Let's keep going here. I'm excited now. That was a super dumb thing. Let's see what it was doing for the other one before. 50 by 50. So that'll do what it did before. So now it's rendering properly. We got a good render. And it was nothing to do with, I mean, there was a render issue. It was not capturing the texture properly. But there was also an issue that it was just not reading back the texture data was wrong. So that was definitely a problem originally. I guess this was not, I mean, this technically wasn't doing any of that, even though it was still failing. Right. So let's get back to where we were originally. Get back before data, because it wasn't writing, and it was probably not writing because of this. So instead of rendering to that, I'm not going to render here and render the back buffer again. It looks like it's still doing the right thing here. Let's verify. Sure. We verify it's still rendering the right thing. Okay, so it is still rendering properly. Let's put our rotation back. slowly rebuild our test here. Okay, so it's rendering and rotating properly. So before it was putting it oh. Slowly. Yeah, what a ride. That's right. Okay, finally getting back to where we wanted to be. Instead of rendering that, we're going to put back our 1x1 texture. A little at a time here. We go back to scaling it by 200, which is what we were doing originally. Okay. What was it doing originally for its offset? Let's see. Just going to copy this line and take it across. Where is it? There it is. You know, it's one of those things where, you know, you're like, well, it can't be this. It's too simple. It can't be that the capture is wrong. It looks like it's clearly rendering wrong, but it wasn't rendering wrong. It was rendering fine. It was just capture of the data that was wrong. Okay, so that's what it should have been rendering the whole time. It wasn't. Actually, it was rendering it on black. Don't need that sleep. We're eventually going to get back to the unit test. I'm just doing it a step at a time just to make sure that I don't break anything. So that's what it was rendering originally. Let's put our MSA back on. It's kind of a big jump here. We should see some gray pixels. I don't see any gray pixels. We don't need that. Don't need to call that. No gray pixels. I think our MSA is not working, which might be originally the test or originally the issue. I mean, the set, you know, the writing of the data was what took us off track, but there definitely was, yeah, I mean, there were definitely bugs here. First bug being that this did not work. once that was fixed, then it showed that, I mean, in the process, we found that rendering to an off-screen render target was not resolving the target, which caused a different bug. This seems like it's working properly, but it might not be resolving. Either the MSA isn't actually enabled. Let's go look at our MS multi-sampling settings in here. See what happens if it actually gets in here. There we go. That's part of the issue right here. Targets don't have MSAA. Multi-sample count 0. Recreate swap chain. There we go. Well, that'll do it right there. The only thing it's not passing into this is the multi-sample count. All right, we're gonna see this through, even though I'm over my stream time, like by a bunch. All right, now we're cooking. Finally. Run that thing. We don't care about that part. This now has a new argument. Or it doesn't. No. That built, I can run that. This is running the generator, which generates, this is failing because of the stupid, because the pipeline side of things. It generates both the stuff for the pipeline and the native, runtime. Okay, so that should be generated. So now this declaration, this should now have this extra argument, multi-sample count. So multi-sample count is being passed to native. That needs to be passed. Yeah, that's true. The save the test for save as PNG and stuff is not working. Either is not working or disabled. Maybe for this, we'll have to see. you start storing that. Not sure why it's set to that, but we'll see. And that's where that goes. That might be all I need to do, actually. Not sure. We'll find out, I guess. I have so many other things to do today, but this is critical. So close. Thanks for you guys hanging out here. I know I've not been as chatty. Just now I'm focused on this. All right, so we should see some gray pixels in here. No gray pixels. Why not? Let's see what happened here. Let's go down here to our native code. Let's debug. Let's see if we're actually getting the multi-sample count come through. First one, no. It's not coming through at all. Let's see why. But this is before the test runs, right? When the fixture's set up, yeah. Then it should be calling it once more from here. That's worrisome a little bit. Here's the resizable chain that passes the new multi-sample count. Oh, bastard. Okay, that's what's happening. I think this is one we really do need it to recreate in this case. I think. Also not changing the, somewhere in here it sets the settings back. Yeah, there's some more stuff to do here that I didn't do. Oh, that's probably better. I knew it felt like I didn't do enough to test this, so it sort of makes sense, I guess, that it wasn't working. Interesting. Save SPNG has no tests. That's bad. That is bad. Let me just run it. That's bad news. Things got markedly worse. So let's see what happened. Destroy the swap chain. I bet you there's other stuff here that we're not setting that we need to set. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe that doesn't need anything. Oh, we don't set the on the frame. We create this texture, but I don't think we're setting multi-sample on it. Yep, we're not. Okay, I know what the issue is now. Come on, thing. Come on, thing. Why? Crashed. Why did it crash? Vulkan issue. It obviously occurred before here. No, earlier? How's that? Is that even getting here? What the heck is happening? Is it even calling our code? Sorry. So, Googling 4064 says, how do you see Rust in the game dev field? I don't know a lot about Rust. I know it's a language. I know it's popular with some people. I know there's some frameworks for it. I haven't really spent any time with it. I probably should, just to get a better feel for, how things are changing in the industry. But I just haven't. That's something I just have not done. Okay, so it's getting here, 0. Okay, so it's getting that far. Same will sample count 4 to 4 there. All right. I don't know why it wasn't getting here before. Obviously, this is the part that I do not like. Clear my output window now so I can get better information later. Okay, so it definitely didn't like something. Depth stencil attachment. Oh, did it not create the? They get the depth stencil has to be updated also to be multi-sample supported. I didn't do that, I don't think. Wait, was it? That's render target create. Sorry. Oh no, it did create it. Should have. So I did the right thing here. Something create render pass. Oh, there it is. Use MSA. That's kind of weird. So that should fix that case. I'm so annoyed now that I spent so much time on a stupid thing. Had nothing to do with the actual issue, but is what it is. Let me just run it and see what happens. I'm no longer getting output. That is annoying. Okay, the fact that this has a depth target that has no multi-sample count is bad. Okay, the depth texture for this multi is not. Oh, I think I know why. I think when it creates the depth texture, it decides I don't need to. Where is it? It's gotta be here. Way over time. Not that it's bad, but you know, I have so many other things I need to work on today. But I really want to kind of doggedly pursuing this because I really want to get this thing done. I want to at least have some success. So there it goes to create that thing. You just must not set it in here. Yeah, it's just not setting it in here, I think. Is where that should be set, but whatever. A lot of little dumb things that, you know, don't necessarily run it real quick, see if it happens to work. Hey, look, it happened to work. Oh, wait. Worked for a second, then went away? What? I don't understand. Confused by that result. Why did I see it working for a second? That's very strange. It doesn't write more than once, does it? My tests. This is the bug again. Just sworn I saw it for a split second. Definitely something going on. I think it maybe sometimes it seems like it doesn't accept my changes properly. Let's go to so this thing should have multi-sample count set. Oh, it doesn't, because this is not the right one. Okay, didn't like something. Resolve attachments. Crap. I might actually have to call it a day on this, because this might be a much longer dig and I can't go this far, or I can't spend this much time. If attachment samples is 4-bit reference. Not P resolve attachments. Is that in here? What are they talking about? Trying to figure out what function they mean, where they mean that resolve attachments needs to exist. Probably is it this argument? Is it in this thing? Let's go look up the fucking function. Come on, thing. Subpass description. attachment samples. That's fucking useless. Are they saying that resolve attachments needs to be null in the case of this? Yeah, I don't know, but I'm getting close. But obviously this is still broken. So I'm gonna have to call it, which sucks. We're finally getting into the meat of the problem. It is what it is. So yeah, so what did we learn? What we learned was that, you know, don't assume the obvious, you know, can't be the problem. You know, yet again, this happens all the time in programming. They're like, well, it can't be this. I was so focused on the rendering that I didn't think that the image capture was the failure. You know, and it points out that we do not have unit tests at all for the save as PNG features, which seems insane that there aren't unit tests for that. But there definitely should be. Let's go see if you would think there has to be, right? No, there just isn't, which is so dumb. But I'm gonna right now create an issue while I'm here. Shockingly, we have no unit tests for I'm very surprised at this. There must be something that we've missed in the past or something. I'm surprised. Very, very surprised. You know, I'm going to assign it 385 as much as I hate it. You know. Come on, thing. I want to hit the next thing. Come on. That was really annoying. And there we go. Somebody might be able to jump on that. We'll see. 385 overdue by 5 months. Oh no. We got a meeting about that. So yeah, this was the culprit. If we had unit tests for this, we would have noticed it. So, you know, with stuff like this, unit tests are important. We would have noticed that this was broken and would have fixed it. Luckily, I did find the fix. I still need to apply the same fix to the JPEG side, I think. But yeah, so imagine that being the issue. But now we know, better progress, I guess, there. But still, some work still to be done here. It's definitely not got things set up properly for... we definitely have things that are not set up properly for the... Oh, I just realized I didn't have my desktop shared when I was writing that issue. But I wrote an issue basically in the MonoGame repo on GitHub for implementing that unit test for save SPNG, because that's critical. So yeah, so I appreciate you guys being on the stream. As always, follow us on Twitch and YouTube. You know, we have at least 2 streams a week, sometimes 3, and I think we're going to start a new stream that's going to come out monthly, I think, that Dom is going to do. So yeah. And then also, you know, MonoGame is an open source project. Donate to MonoGame. It helps us have these streams. It helps us write more code. We're currently going to start pushing to try to get a developer on full time to work on the framework. But, you know, we need to bring in more monthly donations to be able to do that. So that would be appreciative if you can do it, even though I know things are very hard right now for everybody. It is one of those things that can help the project. So yeah, appreciate you guys watching. End of the stream. Bye.